let me see. I know this is really not good airtime on the radio, you know, but you posed the question, so I'm going to do a bit of research, you know. So let me look. 1 second. Typical. I've just pulled up the bloody thing and it's not there. Just 1 second. Bear with me.
Coming up on The Realm, we're joined by a man who always has a lot to say. It's Barney from Napalm Death. So stick around for some grindcore shenanigans and a delicious serving of riffs. Our next guest on the program, of course, is none other than Mr. Barney Greenway from the mighty Napalm Death, back with a brand new record, which I'm just astounded. The complexity of this new record throws in the joy of Defeatism is the new album, and very experimental, but just crushing. So let's have a chat with Mark all about the new Napalm album and everything else that's happening in our crazy world thus far. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hello. Mark, he called me Mark.
Yeah, I thought I
don't hear that very often these days.
Just trying to keep it professional. But like I said, the new record is just crushing. I mean, you know, the band is renowned for that on a sonic sense, but the dynamics on this album and the experimentation is just incredible. So, again, having Mitch back in the band writing, has that kind of influenced some of this sort of new approaches this time around?
Actually, just to correct you, I mean, Mitch didn't write anything on this album apart from a couple of parts. Mitch came in and played the stuff. You know, we did actually offer for Mitch to write some stuff, but I think he felt that like the deadline and getting it together in time, bearing in mind he'd moved back to the States with his family, I just think it wouldn't have been easy for him. You know, we totally respected that, you know, but the useful thing was in that his and Shane's playing context of the sound. So we did think it was useful for him to still play on it, you know, so which he was quite happy to do. So that's the way it panned out, you know. But I mean, in terms of the dynamics of it overall, I mean, it's just, I think it's just the case that the album has moved a couple of steps forward. In terms of our influences that have always been there, well, that's what you can hear also on this new record. But I just think, as you might expect after this is the 16th album, you know, and I think that the chemistry of the songwriters, you know, with the experience of album after album kind of helps to get that more, you know, to refine things a little bit without, but importantly, without losing the edge, you know, so.
Like I mentioned, I could definitely tell the guitar sound being all about Mitch. I just wasn't sure that he'd actually helped sort of write the record. But yeah, like I said, you know, to me, the influences are there with Napalm, but Napalm, no one sounds like you guys. And then when you look at the 30-year history of extreme music, and I do believe there's various subgenres within the scene of heavy metal that owe a huge amount of debt to Napalm Death. Do you keep up with the world of extreme music today? Because there are billions and billions of bands, lots of blasting, lots of brutal stuff, and it's
you know what, mate?
You guys are responsible.
Well, I don't know about that. You know, you got to remember that everything comes from somewhere, you know, and we came from the early hardcore punk scene, you know, and especially as it moved on from there, you know, that once it got faster and more intense, like the US hardcore scene, European hardcore scene, Scandinavian, Japanese hardcore scene, you know, that's everything comes from somewhere. So whether we were responsible is debatable, you know, but we just moved it onwards a little bit, you know, that's what we did, you know. So so I mean, if people say that we have that level of influence on, and that's very kind, you know, and it's really nice of people, but we have to stay focused as a band, you know, because there is a danger that you can become complacent, you know. You can kind of believe your own hype and then think that anything that you do will stick, you know, and that's like cutting corners. And I just don't think that's a good recipe for continuing, hopefully, to make challenging music, challenging with the ideas of the band as well. I mean, you got to stay focused a little bit and actually be a little bit selfish, you know, because that's the music that you write should always satisfy you first. You know, it shouldn't be done on the presumption that you've got to, you know, crack a demographic or some bullshit marketing concept like that, you know. So.
Well, I think you stated the perfect word there about the band's approach, which is just pure focus. And again, I think that is pretty much the result of the longevity of the group. But just talking to yourself personally, I mean, what is your motivation to continue doing this for this amount of years? I mean, many bands don't even boast a career of 15 years, let alone 30. And we've seen how much the industry has changed as well when it comes to the livelihood and the, I guess, yeah, longevity of artists. But what is the driving force for you to still be doing this, Mark?
Well, first of all, mate, I think one of the things that's kept me going is there's a sort of a key word in everything you said there, and it's career. Yeah, this was never a career for me. You know, a career to me suggests like an obligation, you know, to go to a place of toil every day, you know, sometimes quite fucking miserable, you know what I mean? So it was never that for me, you know. I joined Napalm Death because it was my favourite band before I joined. It was vibrant, it was alive, it was spontaneous. It was actually everything I didn't like about the music industry. I wasn't interested in the music industry, you know. I didn't also join to be a professional musician. You know, had another band come along and given me the same opportunity, I probably wouldn't have taken it. You know, it was Napalm Death that I wanted to be a part of. I wasn't interested in anything else really, you know. So I guess the point is that my enthusiasm has kept me going. Our enthusiasm has kept us going as a band. You know, we feel we can do really vibrant, manic live shows we feel that within ourselves we've got things to offer, you know, whenever we make an album. And so as long as we still have those feelings, then we'll continue. I don't see any sense in offering a diluted or 50% version of Napalm Death. Not interested, you know what I mean? So we have to keep our momentum going, you know, for it to be a viable thing, you know. And we always operated on our own principles, you know. We were never swayed by things on the outside that we really didn't feel comfortable with. So,
well, again, it just shows that, and I look today at certain, you know, I guess media and even fans, certainly certain bands that have been around for 25 plus 30 years, that can wear certain fans down where they think, oh, they're still going. When, again, I believe in my mind, ageism is a mind crime. And
yeah, well, yeah, self-inflicted as well sometimes, you know.
absolutely. So, like I said, the output of what you guys are doing for this amount of time, you know, really debunks that whole sort of approach. And again, just talking about, as you said, you know, keeping forward sort of thinking. I guess for newer bands, what advice do you give to them as far as trying to, what's the word, even achieve some of what you guys have done for like, I guess a longevity of that word again, career?
Yeah, a couple of things. If somebody offers you the world on a plate, it's usually bullshit. Like 9.99999 times out of 10. You know, if someone tells you that, they're fucking lying. You know what I mean? For one thing. So the second thing is that you know what? Lots of people will circle around you, you know, to offer perspective and opinions and stuff like that. And you should never not listen. You know, you should always consider things that people tell you. But after you've weighed everything up, you know, if you still think that what you're being offered doesn't run in line with the principles of how you want to drive your band, or isn't the direction that you want to go in creatively, and you're really convinced about that, follow what you think is best. Don't be swayed if after consideration the stuff doesn't sit right, you know, because you've got to live with this stuff. You know, you've got to live with this stuff. If you could look back and you know that you could have taken your own direction when you were advised otherwise, and it turned out to be a damp squib, you know, or a bit of a disaster, you know, however you want to term it, you know, then that to me is a bit of a failure. You know, you need to be able to always consider things, never be so arrogant as not to take advice. But if after you've considered it, it doesn't sit right, then don't do it. You know, live and die by your own decisions in the end, you know, and never let a record if you go with a record label, you don't have to be confrontational, but try and get them to understand that if you're confident enough to make your creative decisions, then don't interfere with your creative decisions, you know, even if it might take a little bit longer. You know what makes what you do to have appeal to yourself. So you do it, you know, and like, don't answer to anybody else. Don't let them come in and chop and change your art, you know.
Well, again, that's testament of what has worked for Napalm Death. You know, you guys would have some horror stories, or I know a fair few horror stories when it comes to the music business, and of course Napalm Death, and the fact that, you know, we look at how much the business has changed, and you guys are just still here, and you've just like conquered all that sort of stuff. Have there ever been moments throughout your time in the band where you've just gone, you know, fuck this?
Well, we definitely made some decisions, I believe, in my opinion, you know, and you might get slightly different answers if you spoke to different, like Shane or Dana, you know, but it's like, we definitely made some decisions that I think could have been better considered. And I think we were swayed in certain directions that we shouldn't have gone. But, you know, you learn by your mistakes, you know, and hopefully you do anyway. And hopefully we haven't made those mistakes again, you know. I personally, I feel a lot more confident in the way Napalm Death operates these days. I can sleep a bit better at night, you know, whereas there were times in the past where I didn't sleep so well in a couple of periods, you know. So yeah, you know, I mean, Napalm Death was born as a free-thinking, independent band. Whatever comes in and sort of and taints that is not going to be welcome. It's not going to be. I'm certainly not going to welcome it. And that's an underwriting principle. And I think that. Of course, there may be things at this point. It's never plain sailing all the way in a band at any point in time, and you're always learning, And I'm sure there'll be stuff to deal with in the future of that general nature. So,
well, speaking of the future, which we still don't know what the hell's going on, but what's your thoughts on what's going on in the world right now? Because this COVID thing has decimated lots of industries, especially the music industry, somewhat, or at least on a dramatic pause. What's your view on what the hell's happening?
So on a personal level, I mean, I'm dealing with it okay. I've been keeping busy. I've done about 7 weeks of interviews, and I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. It's literally that. But why not use the time? If it's time when we're not out there playing gigs, I might as well get. If there's enough people that want to talk about the album and the band to fill that time, then why not? You know what I mean? So that's been the thing, really. So my situation is okay. Presently I live alone. I've only got myself to answer to, which is not to say that's the same for everybody. People that have families or dependents, it's a very hard slog for them, But this virus thing ain't messing around. Luckily, I haven't had any direct family members that have died or been seriously ill from it thus far, but I know people that have, and it's very real. All these people that say it's a hoax, I mean, they kind of need to have a word with themselves and open their eyes a little bit, because this is just simply not the case, In terms of Napalm itself, well, we're just on ice, in terms of the live situation. But again, there's not much I can do about it. It is what it is. And many people are in this boat, not just musicians, although we have been hit particularly hard because gigs are going to be the last thing to open up, But I'm mindful that right now it's about the safety of people in general. I wouldn't never want to cut adrift more vulnerable parts of the population, such as older people with, serious conditions and stuff. To disregard them is just not the human thing, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So I will live with it for now. Or take what comes, and we'll deal with it in the process of time. But I'm certainly, I do miss the gigging and stuff. I really do. I miss getting out there. We were due to come to Australia. We were in talks to come again. But it hasn't happened. And it's disappointing in some respects. But I'm not going to sit here and jump up and down about it. Because I think that would be a bit sort of arrogant. And I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are on how the government in the UK has been handling this stuff. I mean, we're seeing various reports from different countries about how all different governments are trying to cope with this. I mean, no one really sort of knew this was happening until,
no.
What's your view on from where you're at in your land is, has it been handled well?
I do appreciate that it's going to be tough for any like group of people that are having to deal with this, that have been tasked with the top line of doing this. But to be honest, in any case, I think my opinion of Boris Johnson is not great. Wasn't before this and isn't now. He's clowned his way through a lot of things, and now push has come to shove. I just think the coordination, the necessary coordination of this whole thing has just been jumbled, confused. The language has not been clear. The fact that here's one thing that I should mention. So a government advisor, not even a member of the government, who's a really nasty piece of work. This guy basically completely broke the lockdown rules and, traveled to the north of the country and made up all these really hokey excuses. And then, so the government totally tried to push that under the carpet, even in interviews on national radio, like press conferences, completely pushed it under the carpet. So then you would say to yourself, the old cliche, there's one rule for us and there's one rule for them, because certainly When it comes to the lockdown situation, they have been most insistent, and yeah, rightly in principle, I agree, stick to the social distancing, wear a mask, the mask is okay. It's not the be all and end all, but at least it is a barrier, to what you're putting out there for other people who are perhaps more vulnerable in your airspace. You know what I mean? It's not a restriction on civic rights. It is pure consideration for fellow human beings. I'm on board with all that. But the fact that the thing I just told you, you can understand why people just are like, well, why should we? If a government aid is allowed to get away with it, why should we? Why should we even be concerned? I mean, Boris Johnson's own dad travelled to Greece and was that the BBC actually they actually caught up with him, and got him on camera when he's standing in the middle of a Grecian vineyard or something like that, I think it was, and he's bumbling his way. Why are you here when people can't travel? This is a couple of months ago, and he's like, yeah, well, look at this place, look at the beauty of this place. And the BBC camera crew is like, that's not the point, you shouldn't be here. Other people like, do you know what I mean? It's just this like complete double standard, and it just increases my cynicism sometimes. I'm not on board with this conspiracy stuff about the virus being invented in certain ways, and the 5G thing and all the rest of it. I mean, that's all nonsense to me, But in real terms, the governmental handling of this stuff has been like the clown car at a circus a little bit, So.
It's certainly happening here. I know the other week, the Queensland and New South Wales border is obviously still closed. Yet Tom Hanks flies in with his entourage of 26 to continue filming a movie, which he caught coronavirus in Australia earlier.
Yes, he did. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, like I said, there's certain people who can't get across the border to see dying family, and then we allowed Tom to fly in on the private jet with all his entourage, and like I said, there's certain standards for certain people, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it is baffling sometimes, and you've got to, if you're gonna, it's very easy to break that bond of people being on board, with stuff, and we've got to. It seems that we've got to continue with this kind of regimen for now, to get the infection rates right down, because in the UK right now, Andrew, I can tell you it's going up and up and up, because the government just opened a lot of places. They were like, oh yeah, well, we've got to sort of interact a lot more. But it's like, hang on a minute, you were so insistent a few months ago that it was necessary to control the spread for us to be socially restrictive, yet there's no evidence to suggest that it's been suppressed enough to open up these places. The government says, yeah, but we've got to do it. And now if any fool could have told you that the cases are going up and up and up, so therefore that's going to facilitate an even more serious lockdown. So they're actually going backwards rather than forwards, and it just doesn't make sense to me,
Now, moving forward, what's your thoughts on Napalm Death doing a drive-in concerts? Have you started seeing bands? Have you seen footage of bands doing these drive-in concerts at the moment?
I haven't, but I know they do exist. But, we considered it a couple of months ago. And bearing in mind that Napalm Death has such a connection with the people that come to see us, it's a very all for one and one for all kind of experience. We just felt that we couldn't replicate that, like in that online, in an online broadcast. So we put it on ice for now. That's not to say we definitely wouldn't do it in the future. We haven't closed that door, but we couldn't figure out a way to reasonably replicate, that thing. And so we just didn't do it for that time. We may in the future. We not 100% sure at this point.
For me, as a diehard fan, I don't really believe Napalm's ever released a bad record. Like I said, the consistency is enormous. I had a recent chat with Necro Butcher from Mayhem, and as we were talking, I've sort of said, what have you been up to? and he said he's just been cranking Napalm's Diatribes. He said that's one of his favourite records from the band, and that's the one that a lot of people thought.
You know, I've heard that. I've heard that. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. He's never said it to me when I've seen. Obviously, I don't see him very often. You know, once in a while at a festival. But yeah, I've heard that before. You know, it's quite interesting that, you know, it wouldn't be the first album I would think of. You know, but you know, obviously everybody has, everything's subjective. You know, and people always find their entry points. You know.
Absolutely, and again, like I said, the track record of the group is just enormous. So congrats again on another fantastic album in your career. And
yeah, you terrible man, you.
Right, well, again, all the best, Mark. And yeah, I guess, like I said, it's just a waiting game right now, but the album is just phenomenal. And congrats again for just some amazing work.
Well, thank you very much. And if you call me Mark once more, or you say career once more, I'm going to kick your brother and you up the arse like big time when I see you.
All right, bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. fucking hell again. You've got to sit down, but that doesn't stop your fucking arms, doesn't stop your fucking neck, and doesn't stop your fucking head. Let's go! To the stage, trying to be so many to the difference of the grave. There's not one man of the being of every. It's a bit, in the world today. Let's get rowdy, you beer-drinking motherfuckers! Gonna put me in the night. With all that on metal. Marching as well through the cracks in their minds. It feels fucking good, doesn't it? It feels fucking good, Bendigo! To the gallows! Here we go!